Yeah, I know, Pat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Patrick.
They ain't gonna bug you until basically you start getting into the real deep shit, and basically you ain't there yet. Okay, but I'm gonna give you the deep shit tonight.
Oh, great.
Hey,
Now,
Patrick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we
Go ahead.
discussing the put order PMG, Doc?
No, you just sit and listen to what the hell I have to say tonight.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Patrick, if I drop out for a while, my computer's been freezing up, and that doesn't hurt the conference call. That'll keep going on. It may take a little while for me to dial back in.
Okay.
So that may happen.
Okay, first off, I want to apologize to any and all out there that I have offended over the years, the last months, or the last weeks even, okay? I'm truly sorry for basically being such an asshole at times, but that's just my makeup. So please forgive me. Now, with that being said, there's a big difference between a record and a registration. Big, big difference, okay? In most cases, most people were recorded into the Book of Life at the county records. That was a land patent record, okay, that recording, because you are an individual, and basically you're a one-of-a-kind, patentable hunk of land. Okay? There is nobody else like you. Now, like I was alluding to before last week, those land records have to go somewhere. Well, they go to the Land Patent Office for the private side in Washington, D.C., but it's the Land Patent Office. But there is still something that goes to the Treasury Department. Okay? And that is basically under a registrar registration. And what a registrar does is basically one having the duty of registering a transfer of corporate stock. Broadly, any person whose duty it is to keep a register. Okay? So, the recording that was placed into the county records, okay, that was our initial birthing. But later on, a register came in there and basically put a registration number against that land patent. And that was by the register, therefore signifying that basically the land and the corporate all attachments to the land had been put into a tenancy, okay, with the tenant being your state, your birthing state. The tenant now, the birthing state now is the occupant and possession under right or title. A tenancy exists where one has let real estate to another to hold of him as the landlord. You're the landlord, okay? You're the lord of your land. your body. Now, basically, with that registration, that turned around and took your attachments, all land attachments, and see, land does not just the soil. Land means all attachments, furnishings, everything that is on that land. In general terms, including not only the soil, but everything attached to it, whether attached by the course of nature, as trees, herbs, water, or by hand of man as buildings, fixtures, and fences. While your birthing inheritance asset value was a fixture that was attached to that land, to your birthing land. Now, the register basically transferred, and see, that was under a corporate stock. We were given a share of stock in the United States Corporation and the state of wherever birth we were incorporated in. We have that basically noted in one of the items there from past about that Indiana newspaper clipping, saying that basically everybody in the state of Indiana was a stockholder. So we turn around and we've transferred, so now the state of your birth has become the back up here, has become the lease E, okay? You're the leaseor, but you're also the landlord, and they became the tenant to you as the leasee. Now, these actions were per implied leases and covenants, or covenants. And they were basically founded upon, initially, upon the provisions of Scripture, which is what this country was founded upon, also was the Bible, Scriptures. You were supposed to come in and claim your land back at the age of 21. I've said that all along. And that things were supposed to be only held for a 7-year attachment. But it was transferred or allowed to go to a tenancy by will. And a tenancy by will or at will, a tendency to continue for so long as continuation is in accord with the wishes and desires of both parties. Well, you haven't shown that basically you're not in agreement because you didn't know how to take this out properly. We've been going to the wrong damn place. All of these registrars were performed at the state. They were processed through your state, your birthing state, or whatever state. If you had a selective service, if you were now in a different state, then you set up a tenancy with them under your selective service number, because that was a selective service registrar that you went to basically transfer your body for 7 years over to the Defense Department along with access to your assets for their needs and desires. But since it was initially with the state that you were in, okay, now to get it over to the United States, there had to be a co-tenancy put into play. So that now the United States was a co-tenant in the endeavor. Therefore, at that point in time, the Department of the Treasury now held a copy of this certificate of live birth registration as now a implied lease for our assets. And now they became the tenant, one of the tenants, and they owe us rent. We're the landlord. Now there is and basically people need to go into Valentine's Dictionary and look up the word Nemo, N-E-M-O, like Captain Nemo.
Mm-hmm.
And basically Captain Nemo, the story about that was written around the Civil War time. Nemo stands for, just a second, let me pull it up here so I can read it right to you. No man, no one, nobody. And then when you start into the Nemos, one of the first ones you'll come across is a Latin phrase that begins with Nemo. But in civil law, no one can sue in the name of another. In almost all your court actions, the state is coming in and suing you in behalf of somebody else. Yeah, like on your mortgage and stuff like that. You'll see that in a lot of cases, sometimes the state will be right there with their hands in the damn thing too. And they're saying they're suing for the land of the state, but they're not. They're suing for the other corporate side of the state. They're not suing for the sovereign state. They're suing for the corporate state. And that's a no-no. No one can sue in the name of another. See, they're implying that they're suing in the name of the sovereign, but they're not. Okay? You need to go through all the words that begin with implied and study them. Implied condition, implied constitutional provision, implied contract, implied delivery, implied illegality, implied lease. Okay? The relation of a landlord and tenant existing under an implied contract that is a relation from the acts and conditions of the parties consistent only with the existence of a lease and creation of the relation of landlord and tenant thereunder. So we don't really have a contract. We don't have a lease. It's all implied. you have to basically start providing the real substance of that contract and understand what's going on. Now, there was a couple people out here that have had items up before, okay, and one of them was Johnny Liberty, okay, to where he had a book out by allodial titles and land patents, okay. You can pull up that book. There's another one by another group that basically shortened it down somewhat, land patents and allodial title handbook. And then there's another handbook, non-resident alien position. But be very careful of believing everything that is in those books, because they're missing quite a bit of understanding of what I'm just giving you right now. They never address that the registrar basically set up another contract. You have your land patent, okay? So some of these guys out here are trying to go and get a land patent on their birth. It's already there. You don't need to do it again. It was recorded as soon as it went in the county books in the land patent office back in D.C. I won't go into the guys that are trying to do that. Okay? But there's a couple other here. Now, one of the later ones in Nemo is no one can be both landlord and tenant. You cannot be the landlord and the tenant owing the rent at the same time. That's ludicrous. Okay?
Yep.
No one is bound to do things which are impossible. No one is bound to arm his adversary against himself. No one is bound to produce instruments or writings which are against himself. No soldier is to be deprived of the possession of his benefice unless convicted of wrongdoing, which must be declared by the judgment of his peers. That means he cannot be deprived of his military bounty unless he has been dishonorably discharged. No one can establish law for himself. No one who is unwilling is forced into a joint possession. No one can transfer to another any better right or title than he himself has. And the old standby. No one is above the laws. No one can occupy two offices. No one is able to give that which which he has not. So, Nemo is a very, very important word. And basically, no one, nobody, no man, okay, no one also stands for the state of whatever. they want to be declared a corporate person, then they are one. And no one can create his own laws. You have the right to override those laws because you're the landlord. No one is above the law. These corporations are not above the law, especially the governmental corporations. Now, one of the items here is, as soon as I find it here, I've got over 10 pages of word definitions that basically I've pulled out over the last 2 days to try and pull this all together. Okay. It's right here somewhere. Yeah, here's a good one for people that basically, when you go into court, by due course of law, you want to have this action heard. By due course of law. That means an open court and an available remedy under the law for all injuries and wrongs. Now, you have to know what a wrong is. The infringement of a legal right belonging to a definite, specific person. And the state don't have rights. Okay? Also, infringement of name. The adoption by a corporation of a name so similar to that of another corporation, association, or firm as will result in confusion or deception.
Bingo.
They have taken your name and placed it into their system and infringed upon that name, and then therefore bringing you into the picture. It's also infringement of trade name, such a colorable imitation of a trade name that the general public, in the exercise of reasonable care, might think that that is the name of the one being the one first appropriating it. Okay, which is you. You have the right to that trade name, but they set up another colorable imitation of the trade name to use against you. By reason of, which is the same as by virtue of. And by virtue of, the term means literally by force of, by authority of.
Yes.
By law, in accord with law, whether the common law, a constitution, or a statute or ordinance which is constitutional. Proximate cause, grievance, appellant, appellee, appellor, reversion, articles of agreement, memorandum, memorandum of association, articles of incorporation, confederacy, a union of people, groups of people, even nations, for a common person, a union of people for an unlawful purpose, a conspiracy. But see, a confederacy basically is lawful. But if it's done for unlawful purposes, then it is a conspiracy. And basically, they've committed a conspiracy against us in this item, okay? Trying to find that other item that basically states that basically you existence, okay, you exist, and it's basically now I know what the hell phrase I'm looking for. Constitutional
I made a note, Patrick. You said something about the if it results in confusion or deception, then it's inappropriate, or it's similar to the general public, but it's not appropriate.
There's this one phrase that basically about government officials and then basically other constituted authority. Okay? Constituted authorities. The existing and lawful appointed officers of government. That is two different items there. The existing and the lawful. The lawfully appointed officers of government. You are an existing officer of government when you reach the age of 25. They are lawfully appointed officers when they're elected, or when somebody that has been elected appoints them to a specific office. But you are an existing constituted authority, like I said all along, as an elector when you reach the age of 25. Now, what we need to do is, and basically there's also in there, is tenancy. In a lot of cases, there's more than one type of tenancy, okay? And I told you what the one that basically we've all sort of been led into is the tenancy-at-will. At first, it was a tenancy-at-sufferance, or tenancy for years, but now it is a tenancy-at-will, because you did not come in and you allowed it to continue. Now, I don't know how many of you guys have ever gotten into some of the forms out there, but there was a package of forms that basically some people might have that basically was 600 legal forms and guides. Okay? It was off of www.uasoog.com.
It's
Okay.
UASOOG.
UASOOG or Q
Okay.
.com.
And that's 600 legal.
Yeah, if you go in and basically you might find it in torrent engines. I don't know where I got it. Okay.
Okay.
But 600
Okay, what
legal
was the-
forms and guide.
Okay, good.
And basically it's got a lot of different legal documents in there, like I said, 600 of them. Now, one of the key ones that basically is in the endeavor is notice to terminate Tenancy-At-Will. There's also a landlord's notice of termination of lease. There's also a homestead declaration, which basically when you get out of the thing, then you have to do a homestead declaration over you and your property, over your land, your birthing land, and all attachments to your birthing land. That means that house that basically is also there, and the land, the soil underneath that, that is now an attachment to your birthing land. You. And you basically do a homestead declaration. And you file that in. And that would be filed with the appropriate court. Mostly your local court, okay? Now, the notice of termination, okay? You basically have a tenant, which is the state of Iowa, in my case, and then the United States as a co-tenancy tenant. But the transfer was taken place by a state of Iowa registrar in both my military and my birthing. So who do I go to? I go to the Secretary of State. And that's where we send this in, to the State of Iowa Registered Tenant, care of Iowa Secretary of State, attention, whatever the shithead's name is, Registered Tenant in Trust, trustee. And basically we object, notice to terminate Tenancy-At-Will. And we are coming in as the land patented land, as I am the recorded and land patented landlord, and I have by my free will elected to terminate the said leases this very day. This is along the lines of what that one kid that we'd heard about that went in the Secretary of State's office out in Colorado and basically got access to his funds. By going to the Secretary of State's office. We have to go to where the registrar, and see, the state Secretary of State holds all the seals for the state. Then that transfer had to be under state seal. So you go to the one who is the secretary over those seals. and terminate the damn thing. Now, the problem is, in most cases out here, like I said before, one of those Nemo statements, no one can be both landlord and tenant. But all adhesion contracts were set up as naked tendencies. The driver's license, the voter registration card, the U.S. passport, the Social Security card, all certificates of title were issued in an attempt to make you a subrogation tenant to your own lands. As a new tenant debtor owing rent to the original tenant debtor, leasee, when they demanded it. And see, these were naked tenancies. They did not give you any of the access to the funds during the process. And they set these up as subrogation tenancies in the regards. This is all about tenant and landlord, tenant, debtor, and the creditor. But see, they got you in just like in that mortgage contract at the bank. When you basically put the signature on the left-hand side, they got you into a subrogation tenant position. I hope that basically some of this will sink into people and start understanding what really needs to be taking place here. Because it's not that hard. Now, that basically I've tried to throw some of these words out to you, and basically the one item there, this notice to terminate, basically was about 2 paragraphs initially, but I've added more to it, and it was a 1-page document. And then you send that in. You record, you don't register this by mail or anything like that. Okay, that's another damn contract you're getting into, like I try to tell people, using registered mail labels. That's a no-no. Okay. You don't need to really do certified mails. If you've got a fax machine, basically you've got confirmation of delivery of that right there on the fax machine. You can follow up with the hard copy. And then you do your own certificate of mailing items on there. Yeah, I don't know. If you look at adhesion contracts, and basically a contract that is drafted literally by the dominant party and then presented on a take it or leave it basis to the weaker party, who has no real opportunity to bargain about its terms. you're not given any bargaining power for that driver's license. It's take it or leave it. But you better take it, or else we're going to basically be all over you. Now, that is basically against Article 9 of the Bill of Rights. Because they're trying to give you a privilege that they don't have a right to give to you because you already have the right.
Mm-hmm.
Because what they're trying to do is get you under a leasing contract back with them to now where you become the debtor and you're not given any of the funds from the insurance policy to pay the damn traffic tickets.
Yep, that's exactly what they do.
Now, same thing with the voter registration. Why do they come after you for taxes? Because you have a voter registration card for state taxes. Same thing with the national level. You've got a voter registration card, but you've also got a Social Security card. Those are adhesion contracts, basically setting up another tendency, a lease, making you the tenant that now owes the debt back to the one that granted this lease, which is now the original tenant in the process. And we're really sitting here supposed to be the landlord, so we can't be a tenant. Everybody's so damn scared to think that they might really own something here in this country. But the tenant, basically when you sign it over to the state, they became the owner of the land while it is in their possession. That just means owner of the land. They have the responsibility to pay all bills and to pay the rents out here. But we've never told them what the rent is to be or when to make the rent payment. Have you?
Nope.
You haven't come in and basically stated that basically here is the leasing contract number. And that's the registration number, or the certificate of live birth registration number, or the selected service registration number. Because those were both processed by a registrar. And see, this is some of the stuff that was missing out of those other handbooks that I talked about earlier there. The guys did a good job of basically stating certain things, but they never went and basically, from what I can ascertain from reading the documents over, they never got access to their accounts because they were arguing the wrong thing. They were getting allodial titles to land and stuff like that and not having to pay property tax on certain things, but they were missing the big issue out here about being a landlord.
Wow.
That should be one of the biggest words that everybody knows, is landlord. You're the lord of your land. Act like one. Okay. I want to reiterate one more time. I'm sorry if I've offended anybody over the past years and basically felt that I have caused or hurt their feelings in any regards. I probably have stepped over the lines, but basically this is a very stressful scenario to try and keep up with all this stuff going on, especially when you have your own family that basically is trying to fight against you. So, I'm sorry. Now,
we understand.
This will be my last call right now because my phone dies tomorrow. But I don't expect anything back here because I'm done. I've given you the answer. Okay? If you can't take these words from this audio and go and look them up in the dictionary and analyze what I just said and about the termination of this tenancy by will, by your will, and send it to your Secretary of State, your birthing state, or if you have a selective service number, you have to do that one to your state that you basically signed up under a selective service number. Now, if you've got a baptismal record, basically that signature there also was setting up a tenancy to where that religious organization or whatever became a tenant over your land. They had a right of tenancy to utilize your assets. That's what we were trying to go after with the Church of Rome out here. And we have an inherent world asset account. And they know that that's there. But basically they also put claims in against our assets that are here in this country. Under that baptismal certificate, or in my case, Church of Roman Catholic Church, communion, confirmation, marriage, all attachments to that original baptismal certificate. You need to look at these items for what they really are. And they basically got you into being a tenant upon your own land, which is an impossibility. Well, it's not impossible, they did it, but it's a wrong, okay? It's totally ludicrous. Why would you be paying rent to some middleman when it should be going right to you? And the middleman ain't paying the rent to you because you've never addressed what rent they're supposed to be paying to you for the continued usage of your assets. And then they turn around and get you under all these fraudulent IRS bills under the infringement of name scenario. And then all the different items that we got out there with the estate EIN and everything else, trying to think that we were doing something right to get out of the system. We were doing it wrong. We were coming in and now trying to claim that we were the owner of that. We should have revoked that and said, hey, we're the tenant, or we're not the tenant. Okay, so we're not going to be the owner of that. That now belongs back to the United States Treasury to pay that damn tax bill. or to the county, to the state of, to pay the property tax. They gave you a certificate of title, basically making you a sub-tenant to your own property. All taxes have to go back to the source. Okay? I said that before and before and before. So, go ahead and open it up to questions. Anybody got any questions?
Well, I've got to go crack Valentine's and look up all these words and go through the call again, because you really packed a lot of information in there, and we have to really think it over. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and it tells me what I have to study much more thoroughly.
No, you just need to look up those words and get pretty much a handle on it. But basically, if you listen to this call about 3 or 4 times, and basically you're going to have to listen to it at least, I would say, 3 times before you comprehend exactly what the hell I'm saying here.
Right. I'm going to transcribe it for myself. And then in the transcription put in all the words.
Don't be afraid, okay? People, don't be afraid that when you go into the dictionary and you look up one word and there's a word in there that you don't understand, highlight it, okay? Or basically you think you know what it is, basically go and check it out. In a lot of cases, you're going to find out that basically it says something a little different. Now, one of the problems that I had with Johnny Liberty and basically his allodial handbook was that everybody out here thinks that Bouvier's is basically the number one dictionary that basically, because the Supreme Court and a couple of these other places use it. No, they don't just use Bouvier's, okay? That is basically for the general public, the deceptive dictionary. And basically there's too many things that are missing out of Bouvier's dictionary to be a fully lawful dictionary. It's a legalese dictionary more than anything. But go in there, and always at the end of some of these definitions, there are extra words there. Look those things up. Follow the path of the words. Go from one to another. Don't just sit and listen to me and basically think that basically you know what the word means. Even though I've read some of the definition, you've got to see it. You've got to have it. In some cases, you need to take that definition and actually place it in your document. Like, no man or no one can be both landlord and tenant. No one can hold or should hold 2 offices. Know what the difference between should, shall, could, may. Look up those words. You'll be surprised. I've shut down the NRC when I was working in nuclear power plants over the word shall. I stopped them dead in their tracks. It doesn't mean what everybody thinks it means. Okay? until you know what the words mean, don't use them, and basically stand aside, because you'll just turn around and get yourself into trouble. That was one thing that basically was sort of brought up in those handbooks that I had up there from Johnny Liberty, and basically one of the other ones on the allodial titles was that if you don't know and understand the words, then don't use them. And don't try and act like you know what the hell you're doing. Because until you do know what the words actually mean and put them into the right connotation, you're not going to get anywhere. Now, more questions.
Patrick, I found that the CD is available from Amazon from various sellers for $47 plus shipping.
Star 6 if you want to talk. Or did I drive everybody away?
Tom, you're over-modulating.
Huh?
Okay, I'm over-modulating?
Yeah, I can barely hear you.
Okay, it seems fine at this end. Should I back away from the microphone? Is that any better?
It's a bit better.
Okay. I found that Amazon has these CD for legal forms and guide for $47 plus shipping from various sellers. The torrent file doesn't seem to be online anymore. When you download it, there's nobody transmitting it.
On the torrent engines?
Yeah, the torrent engines. There's no seeders or peers. Well, there's 26
pirate.com.
I'll try that. PirateBay.com, you probably know.
Yeah, piratebay.com. That's the one that I use, and basically they got a pretty good search database, and normally there's somebody out there that might have it. Okay, or basically there should be people on the group site that basically should have had some of this stuff downloaded that been at this stuff for years. Okay,
that's true. What's the
like I said,
upload?
For the most part, what I just gave you is the bare, simple stuff. You don't need to have the damn book, okay? Because the book did not have what you needed to see. It was missing the key component, the key understanding about these leases. They talked about some form of lease, but they never got into tenancy, tenancy-by-will, some of these words that all the different words that I mentioned tonight. So you don't need to get that book, okay? I just made reference to it that basically there was something out there that basically had some understanding, but they weren't right. They did have some good foundation, but you don't need it. I've given you more than enough foundation over the years, okay, if you really want to listen to all the stuff. Everything that I've talked about is foundational information. It's built upon the Bible. And that's what this whole process is about, okay? They could not deviate too much from the Bible. Okay, now questions.
Patrick, what's the file upload limit on Yahoo?
What?
How big a file can be uploaded on Yahoo?
Well, I don't know what it is now, okay?
Okay.
Yeah. At one time I was having problems getting anything over 3 megs loaded onto the group site.
Oh, okay.
But that was before they screwed it all up, so I don't know what it is now.
Because I just found the file and it's 5.7 megabytes. I'll
Yeah.
put it on the concurrent backup.
Yeah, you can put it over there.
Okay.
But like I said, don't believe what is in that document. You can use it as a resource, but that's as far as you go.
Okay.
Okay?
Patrick,
Yeah.
you were talking about the Global Sovereign Handbook?
The allodial title.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one other one, I don't know which one it was, that has sort of like the third one in the group, I think, had that that damn character that was a cartoon character that basically was all dressed up in orange or yellow. I can't remember what the hell the damn name of the cartoon was. But anyway, okay, he's on the damn picture of one of the damn books.
Yeah.
Are we still going to be able to do the put orders when we figure out?
Tom,
or
get
we
this
go
other
for the whole
damn
estate?
thing in. Stop the leases, okay?
Okay, get the whole
Kill
thing.
the lease, okay? Kill the lease.
Okay.
Get your funds. Demand that they pay you the rent that they owe you.
Okay.
Yes. Let's stop playing their damn games of trying to put shit into them. Let's go after their juggler.
Okay.
Let's get them off of our land. Did you find that 600 legal form document?
Yes, I did. I did download it from Pirate Bay, and it's 5.7 megabytes, so I'll have to put it up on the
Well, you can pull out some of those, open up the file, pull out some of those legal documents, because not every one of them is needed, okay? You're only looking like for a state, for leasing, for certain categories, okay?
Okay, I can do that.
If other people want divorce or something like that, they can go in and try and get that one down, okay?
Very good.
Okay, so, yeah, you can slim that down and just put up what you need.
Well, I have it. It's going to be very easy for me to upload it to the backup, but for the Yahoo group, yes, I'll pull out just the relevant forms.
Yeah. Okay, anybody else out there? No, I'm talking on the phone.
No, I think you pretty summed it up pretty good today. Hello?
Yeah.
No, I said you summed it up pretty good today. And we need to go look up those definitions. We need to do our research. Real good.
Yep.
Yeah, you can see the same trick that they've done all along. This subrogation, they did it on our title, they did it on our mortgages, they're still doing it on our property taxes, everything. Yeah.
They didn't do it on the initial, okay? The initial was a lease, a registration by a registrar. Now, your driver's license, your voter registration is not by a registrar.
Right.
And see, that's the difference, okay? They're not transferring anything really, because you've already transferred everything per the original certificate of live birth by the registrar there. So they really have ownership of everything that you think you have ownership of.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so go after that original stuff.
You've got to go after that original registration,
Mm-hmm.
the original lease, and terminate that, and then basically all subleases. But now you can contend in court, basically, by revoking all of these subordinate leases that have been trying to make you a tenant upon your own land. Traffic tickets, whatever.
So we need to declare ourselves the landlord?
You need to what?
Declare ourselves the landlord?
Yes, you are the landlord. You're the lord of your land, your body. Right?
Yep.
Okay. So you're a landlord.
All right. All right, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
I guess not, Patrick.
Yeah, and like you said, just don't ever cross the line again. Don't ever get tricked back into something like for employment or buying a car or anything like that. Don't ever get tricked back into it.
No.
To really wreck you.
And then, see, like I said, as soon as you get this done, then you put in your homestead document. And that should be in one of those legal forms there that Tom has. Okay?
Okay.
Your
I think it's
homestead
called
exemption.
the
And basically, see, you're the sovereign of the state.
Yeah.
You're a state sovereign. Now, who do all taxes, where do all taxes have to go back to? They have to go to the source. Well, basically, you're the source of the credit for the treasury of the country. This is covered under Section 8 of the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8. Basically, the full faith and credit of the country. They're relying upon you and your share of stock in the country to be the collateral for their debt. And they owe the debt back to the shareholder or to the sovereign, and you are part of the sovereignty of the land. And that's called out in quite a few of the state constitutions.
Patrick, so we don't do the cease and desist. We just do this land, claiming the landlordship of our...
I would put the cease and desist order in, but if you haven't got that done, you can turn around and just terminate this lease right now.
With the registrar of our birth state.
No, with the Secretary of State.
Okay.
Then also, you're going to need to notify the Secretary of the State that you're living in also, because of your driver's license and whatever other leases you have. You're going to have to terminate those because you as a landlord cannot be a tenant.
Do we send them a statement describing the Nemo thing? Do we send a statement describing the Nemo so they'll understand that part also?
If you want to, do it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you what to do. Okay? You're on your own. You're a big kid now. You're supposed to be.
Yeah, he cleared you for takeoff.
No.
Yeah, you're just giving us the guideline. We got to do our own thing. We need to take
you make up your own document because you've got to be able to support and defend what you're doing. You've got to come in as the landlord. And the landlord needs to know what the hell he's doing. That's what I've said before there. If you don't want to understand the words, you can't put them together properly, then don't do it, because more than likely you'll probably mess it up, and you'll mess it up coming out of it anyway. This is only for those that really want this bad enough. And I mean bad enough that basically they can almost sweat blood.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're doing that being a slave anyhow. But we have to, we have to want to not be a slave.
Yeah.
Okay,
Then after
any other
we do
questions?
I've done a declaration of homestead, and they are pretty powerful.
But you did not have your termination of lease in place.
Maybe we'll make a new form. Well, we're going to be making our own form, with all that included. Good. Well, I'm glad you climbed up on top of the mountain there, Patrick.
I'm ready to leave.
Yeah.
Rocket right off this place.
It's true. What a mess, yeah. Keep me. Hey, out here in California, we had an earthquake. It's 3:20 in the morning. My friend told me her bird went ape about 5 minutes before, 3:15, and just started going crazy in his cage, and it's all covered up and everything anyhow. But the bird knew something was going to happen.
Now, see, they can hear those low harmonics down there where the ground is starting to shift.
Yeah.
Hmm.
He got so upset he fell off his perch. He was crawling back up off the bottom of the cage when she got to him.
Okay, any other questions about this thing?
Well, I'll probably have plenty when I get into it, but that's all I have for right now.
No, basically you ain't going to be able to ask them. Okay? From me, anyway.
Right.
Okay?
Okay. Well, thank you for all your help, Patrick.
Okay. You guys have a good life down the road. Okay?
All right, thank you, Patrick.
Things work out well for you.
Patrick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Come back on the calls and listen to us. We'll be talking about it. We'll be listening to this call about 5 times.
Thank you for never giving up.
Oh, that's not my makeup. May get pissed off. Maybe until last whole time, but I really don't ever give up.
Right.
Okay. No more questions? Good night.
Okay, good night.
Good night.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Okay,
Thank you, bye.